Duty Free Rock Stars! Welcome to the Duty Free Rock Star Extravaganza. I'm your host, Tony Lucca, about to take you so deep up into the recording process, you won't know the way out. That's right. The 21 questions series continues. I'm going to be answering your questions over the next several days, and hopefully record making makes more sense to you than it has to me for a long time. But the rollaways are on their way over today. We're going to get started with a little rehearsal, run over these songs so that when we get to the studio tomorrow, we know how to knock them out of the park. Yeah, check it out. That's awesome.
That's kind of like the intro thing, maybe, or something like that.
Let me record that. Go ahead and play it again. Lisa Simpson from Toronto, Canada. Always good for a few questions. She was curious, how many hours does it take to record one song? Does each person record on their own, or do say the rollaways play at the same time? Great question. Some songs, yes, they happen as quickly as they take to play. You get enough, of the musicians playing the parts that they know that they're gonna play, and everyone plays together, kind of like a live performance, and you can knock it out in a few takes. Other songs are a bit more like paintings or projects that you chip away at, and you come back to days, weeks later. There's a really cool movie called Sympathy for the Devil, which is basically like a documentary on the making of the song Sympathy for the Devil by the Rolling Stones, and it shows you how that song evolved from its impetus to the final performance, and it's pretty eye-opening. So yeah, good question. She also wanted to know, what was your favorite studio experience? And I've had some pretty incredible ones for sure, but I have to say that the first one was pretty magical. And I remember sitting there with my cousin Cole, who was with me at the time, and we looked at each other and we said, someday this is gonna all seem like old hat, but right now it's pretty damn exciting. And that stuck with me. It's stayed with me since. Joni Granware from New York. She wanted to know, as a producer, do you unilaterally make decisions regarding all matters of the record, i.e. musicians, song picks, etc., or is it something you decide with the artist? It sort of depends on the scope of the project, but ultimately you're trying to tell the artist's story, help tell the artist's narrative. So, what ends up on the record is what they have to live with. That their name goes on it. They have to, represent that work for the rest of their life. Ideally, you're working in concert with one another. So you try to strike a balance, a collaborative spirit, but eventually, the buck has to stop somewhere with the creative decisions that go into how the record sounds, and that's usually what the producer's putting their stamp on. So, if a producer has their go-to drummer, bass player, and the artist has their bass player in their band, and the producer's player is one of the best in the world or really good, chances are he's going to bring in his guys to play the tracks in the studio, and the artist can take his band on the road. It's not the most it's not a lot of fun sometimes when you have those conversations or you have to cross those bridges, but really at the end of the day, you're trying to make the best sounding product you can. So yeah, this is day 2 technically, if we want to include rehearsal, but loading up the vehicle here for the studio. Got the guitars, a little producer's stool box, producer's tool box, backpack, and a baseball glove in case we need to kill some time. But so excited to get this project started, and looking forward to working with the rollaways today. Yeah. Before things really get going in the studio, you have to get drum sounds, which means you got to go through where there is a microphone, and usually most of, if not each piece of the kit is mic'd up. So you've got like 8 different channels of drums, 9 in this case because we have a room mic going on, and you gotta like mic by mic, drum by drum, make sure you've got the sound you want. It's tedious. It's definitely one of the least exciting at least rewarding, but ultimately it is the foundation of pretty much every song you're going to record. So we do it. We do it because we care.
All right, that's great. Actually, sounds really nice. Floor.
Relatively newer patron Martha Klein had a question. Wanted to know how many takes does it take to get the song just right? Do you prefer winging it or strive for that perfect sound? Again, I would say see also Sympathy for the Devil, the film about the Rolling Stones' work on that song. Yeah, at some point you kind of have to just let it go. You gotta just say, this is what it sounds like today. This is what we're going to sound like. I think some people really do overthink it, and I've been told perfectionism leads to procrastination, which leads to paralysis, and that it can be the death of a project, let alone a song. I tend to try and get a sense of what's going to take place that day or during that session, and kind of set the bar at a particular spot and say, okay, I feel like this is what we're capable of doing. I've heard us do some really great stuff. I've heard us do some not so great stuff today. Let's keep pushing until we're doing more of what we're capable of today, and hopefully that is something we all walk away satisfied with. Patron Wesley wants to know, nowadays, is there really that much difference in the sound quality between recording in a studio and recording at your home? And the answer is sadly no. Sonically speaking, the technology, the software, it's all there. I've seen some things where they've basically created the algorithms of all the major studios like Abbey Road and Ocean Way and all these places that are sort of antiquated now. You can do it all in the box. You can all do it in Pro Tools, and right here in the comforts of my own office, I could create something, with enough time and attention to detail and knowledge of the software, make something that sounds every bit as like Lady Gaga or Florida Georgia Line. Guys are doing it all the time here in Nashville now. It's crazy. But it also depends kind of like what you're into, where you want to go to create, where you feel inspired. And a lot of times that's the studio. There's something about going into the studio that is a lot of fun. And sometimes studios just have different things that the home studio is not going to have. You might get a little choice elements here and there that really make it worth the while. But the other thing Wesley was curious about is when recording a new album, do you prefer to do it locally and go home each night, or away from home where you can fully immerse in the music? I've done it both ways, and obviously both have their merit. But the project I'm currently working on right now has been nice because it's here in Nashville, and I do get to go home 5 o'clock. It's like 9 to 5. I come home and I get to go to Little League games and have dinner at the dinner table with my family, and that's kind of tough to beat. So yeah, I'm sure it'll go both ways, but I'm enjoying this one. Today's day 3 of tracking, and it's just me today. I got what I needed from the rollaways, at least for now. Yeah, we spent the last 2 days with Mick back up in here on this really tasty little Gretsch kit. Again, I was over here laying scratch tracks. Scratch means we're going to lose it, replace it. But today I'm going to be out here. We're going to transform this space into a little one-man operation. We're going to man the helm and cut the tracks at the same time. Yeah. Loyal, dedicated patron Berniel Sutherland is curious about, as someone who's been on both sides of the table, any advice you'd give an artist when dealing with a producer? Is there anything that they should concede to the producer right off the bat? And well, yes and no. the only advice I would give is that you want to find someone that you are open to having them hold you accountable. When you're looking for a producer, you're looking for someone that you trust and respect, and not just because they've got a name attached to them, because some of them can be total assholes, and that's not going to work well for you either. You need to find someone that you admire and respect, that you don't feel afraid to let them sort of deconstruct your work and sort of poke holes at it. It's a huge part of it, and it took me a while to realize that. Some of my earlier stuff, I would work with people that would just kind of let me do what I wanted to do because I was afraid maybe they might say my song sucked, so I didn't want any of that accountability. But it's critical, and really having a fresh, informed set of ears on your work is what it's all about. Is what the producer's all about. The producer, when they say things like this song's a little slow, this song's a little fast, maybe we should raise the key, things that are generally about the music and the way the music sounds and is going to sound and present itself best, that's the stuff that you kind of want to, like, when you're picking your battles, let the producer kind of steer the ship at that point. If there's a certain word that doesn't sound good coming out of your mouth and you just can't sing it that way, you don't want to sing it that way, it's not something you would say, then dig in and say, no, I want to sing it this way, and this connects deeper to me, and that's the most important thing. So again, striking a balance. Chris Damalis wants to know, how has the age of single downloads of pretty much any song on a record changed the art of putting an album together, or has it? Do you still order songs to tell a story or have a musical progression in the same way? Yeah, singles have sort of taken the day since the advent of the MP3 and with streaming and things. It does take the art form of start to finish, side A, side B. I mean, when I was coming up, I remember getting a record and the album artwork, you just sit here and stare at it, and it would definitely tell a story. And now that's harder to do. The bigger artists still get to do stuff like that, and still kind of need to do stuff like that, like Taylor Swift doing 1989. It's kind of a concept album. It's got songs that sort of harken back to that time, and the sounds are indicative of the 80s in a way. I'm a big fan of the concept album, or at least really just setting a tone with a project, and I do still try to pay attention to start to finish what makes for a good set. If I were to play these songs live, would I do 5 slow songs back to back? No. You still want to trust that at some point someone's going to pop this thing in and want to play it from top to bottom, and you want to make that a dynamic experience. So yeah, keep your eye on the prize, but always come up with a good single. Patron Roseanne Wallace wants to know, how do you know when to stop tweaking a song? Are you ever fully satisfied with it, or do you continue to play with the arrangement even after a version has been committed to an album? That's a tricky question, when do you quit applying paint to the canvas? When is the painting done, I guess? When does the recipe have enough salt? These are things that you're never quite sure. But at some point you have to draw the line. Again, I feel like if you hang around too long on something, you're going to get down on yourself about it. You're going to get sidetracked from just the flow of more work, of more ideas. It can be a disease almost. I have revisited songs from one album to another with a different producer, a different direction, a different sound. Some of you that are familiar with Melancholy Caller know that the initial version of that was a little more up-tempo, poppy or rock thing, and then another producer thought that we could simplify the arrangement a bit, so we recorded it again, and then sometime thereafter I did this jazzier progression on it and abandoned the original structure altogether, but kept the lyric there and sort of the melody. You gotta explore. You gotta feel free to explore, but at some point, you gotta kind of just say, all right, this is how it sounds. And let those things that might nag at you, so that next time you don't make those kinds of mistakes. You don't overlook those little things that, if you had just gone back and revisited it one last time, that's what helps you improve album after album. So today I've got Paul Fowl here in the studio tracking a song called Everyday Miracles. It's really something. Check this out. Here we go.
Cool. See me in your everyday miracles are all the things we share. Everyday miracles, the sea, the earth, the air. Everyday miracles, the lives we live each day. It just takes my breath away.
So good.